Right, football fans returned to a Celtic game yesterday. Ross County versus Celtic, one of two matches that had supporters in Scottish football this weekend. Unfortunately, no away fans allowed at games yet, so none of the people inside whatever that stadium in Dingwall is called were Celtic supporters. But I thought this may be a good little opportunity to take a look at some of my favourite away trips, away days in the Scottish Premiership for when football fans can finally return to games away from home. So I have supported Celtic for virtually all of my life, the best part of 2 decades anyway. In that time I've not managed to get to every single away ground in the league. A couple of the notable ones I've never been to are Tynecastle and Easter Road. However, I have visited the vast majority, and I'm going to try and give you a collection of the best away grounds to visit if you're a Celtic fan, and probably some of the poorer ones as well. Now, it's worth pointing out that any away day with Celtic is pretty good. You've got a good vocal away support and you're getting to see a team that invariably wins. However, there are some factors that elevate some of these stadia to higher levels than the other one. So I think we'll start with the bad, get them out of the way, and then we'll move on to the good stuff. Right, I may be a little bit scarred by a result that happened last year when we lost away to Livingston, but I must admit I'm not a huge fan of visiting the Tony Macaroni Arena. Anyone who's watched a game or been to a game there will know that it's actually quite a large stadium and actually quite a neat stadium. But the home side, Livingston, have a pretty small support. I think they average around 1,000. And when the big teams come to their ground, including ourselves, we're given just about 75-80% of the ground. So 3 sides will be filled by Celtic supporters. So it's almost like a home game. It's not really an away game in many ways. But the memory from last year wasn't a particularly good one. The atmosphere was all right. It's not too difficult to get to, although the train station is a bit of a walk from the stadium. But just given Celtic's recent performances there, we obviously didn't win in either of our visits there last season or even the year before. We drew 0-0. It's not been that happy a hunting ground. I think what you need for a good away day as well is a decent home support that makes a bit of noise and gets a bit of atmosphere going, and I'm afraid the Livingston fans don't really do that, other than a little section in the corner that make a little bit of noise, but you're only talking about probably 40 or 50 people there, so doesn't really have the atmosphere for me. The game isn't really great quality, and of course that artificial pitch as well. Another team that has an artificial pitch that I'm not a massive fan of, very similar to Livingston actually, it's Hamilton Accies. If you canvass the opinions of most Celtic supporters, then I think a lot of them would say it's their least favourite away day in the league. Why? Probably the fact it's such a small stadium. There's not really a good atmosphere ever generated in that stadium. I've been there for a few games. I remember a game probably about 6 or 7 years ago now, and Liam Henderson scored a low-driven volley. We won, I think, 2-0 away to Hamilton. And it was all right. As I say, you very rarely get a terrible away day with Celtic, but the atmosphere at Aki's games isn't great at all. And I'm going to watch what I'm saying here, because there may be some big Scotland fans out there, or even just some real fans of Scottish football and history and all that kind of thing. But I'm afraid to say I'm adding Hampden Park into the worst category. I just think it's pretty much impossible to get a good view of the game there. I've been to Hampden, 20-25 times probably over the last decade or so, and I don't know if I've ever had a half-decent view of the game comparable to Celtic Park. It's just wherever you seem to be, you're so far away from the action. There's obviously been good games there. The Betfred Cup final win over Rangers back in December springs out. The Aberdeen Cup final when Tom Rogic scored in the last minute, Scottish Cup 2017, that springs out as well. But I just feel like the bad massively outweighs the good with Hampden. I don't know why that's the case. Maybe we've just shat ourselves so often there, but you think back to Ross County, you think back to Inverness, you think back to the Rangers semi, the Rangers final back in 2011, the Kilmarnock final a year later. All of these games I was at, like probably many of you, and I just struggle to get over the bad Hampden memories as a result. Even the last few years where it's become more of a home for us haven't really helped get rid of those memories. Could you really class it as an away day? Well, I suppose it's not Celtic Park, but it is still in the heart of Glasgow, and it is still a stadium that has been pretty much home for us over the last few years or so. I've even been to Scotland games there. I've never been at Hampden when it's been absolutely rocking, or even when I have, it's not been the same as Celtic Park. It's a stadium that for me is far too far away from the pitch, and yeah, I know people say that they quite like Hampden, but I always ask them, is that more down to the occasions and the fact it's a Scottish Cup final or a League Cup final or a big game than the stadium itself? Put it this way, I think if you were to hold Scottish Cup finals at Parkhead or even at Ibrox or even Murrayfield maybe, I think the atmosphere would be far better. So that's why Hampden's going on my negative list. Right, on to the good stuff here. I've got 4 grounds. I'll try and get through them as quickly as possible. Worth reminding you that I've not been to Hearts or Hibs, so I'm not including them. Pittodrie as well. I've never actually been there for a Celtic game. So the 4 I've got on my list, first of all, we'll go for Motherwell. I was at both Motherwell games last season. It obviously helps when the team plays really well and gets comprehensive victories, as we did on both occasions. I also went to Motherwell in the Invincible season when Tom Rogic's last goal got us a 4-3 win. We'll all remember that game. That's one of my favourite Celtic matches ever. And I've just never been at Fir Park with a bad atmosphere. All the Celtic support are packed into that end stand. Fans are always up for it, right on the way from the train to the walk into the ground. And the thing I love/hate about Motherwell is the fact you've got the vocal well boys, or whatever they're called from a Motherwell point of view, that add a bit of atmosphere to it as well. Now, we may not like a lot of them, and I certainly can't stand a lot of them, but I think you can't deny that they do add a bit of atmosphere there, and that's what you're looking for on a big away day. Another one I like is Kilmarnock. So many memories. Killy's kind of my local big team if you take Ayr United out of the equation, and I've been to Rugby Park on so many occasions. We used to get both stands at Rugby Park. We even had 3 when I was there, when we won the league 6-0 back in 2012, I think that was. Now we're away down to 1 stand. There's no doubting that has diminished the atmosphere a little bit. But I think the Celtic support are always up for Killie. I just love the fact that the support's all packed behind the goals, or one goal in this case nowadays. And I'm a big fan of that one as well. The Scott Brown winner back in whenever it was, 2018, is one that springs out as well. An away day that we all missed out on not so long ago is Tannadice. Probably my favourite away day in the whole league. Just an amazing atmosphere. Again, you've got a vocal home support who makes some noise. Celtic support are always up for it. We get that shed behind the goals, which I've never actually been in. Whenever I've gone, I've always been in the other stand that we get. But the atmosphere is always amazing there, and it's usually a really good game at Tannadice. You know, Dundee United Celtic, Hibs Celtic, these are always games that invariably end up in really good matches, and it's always easier to get the atmosphere going in games like that. So I just love Tannadice. The one that really springs out for me, I was at the game when Scott Allen made his debut. That was good, but also the Scottish Cup game about 5 or 6 years ago under Ronnie Dyler. We drew 1-1 away from home. I think it was Griffiths that scored late on. I remember Virgil van Dijk being sent off in that game as well early on, and I think Dundee United even went down to 9 men. Just an amazing cup tie, and the atmosphere that day was incredible. And I won't be the only Celtic fan that's absolutely delighted to see Dundee United back in the top flight, and hopefully by the time we go there in 2020 we'll have fans, or away fans, allowed to go back to the games. And finally, the one I've not spoken about, probably pretty obvious for a lot of Celtic fans, going to Ibrox. We've ruled the roost over our rivals there over the last 5 or 6 seasons or so. We've won virtually every match, and yeah, it's an amazing away day. Anyone who's never been to a derby match away from home, I feel is missing out on something in their life. Just amazing. I was there when Edouard scored in the 3-2 win, an incredible day there earlier on that season when we won 2-0. I wasn't at the 5-1 game. I was also at the one they beat us when we could have won the league back in 2012. That was disappointing. But I've not been to Ibrox since we were penned into the corner. It'd be interesting if anyone watching this video has been. What's the experience like? How different is it? But being in the Free Broom Loan back in the days, watching Celtic was just amazing. As good as it really got, watching Celtic beating our rivals at their own ground, it was just incredible. And that day when we won 3-2 down to 10 men when Edward scored late on was right up there. It takes a lot of beating that for me. Hopefully we get back to the stage and they get out of their wee huff and they allow us to get our full support back in there, and we do likewise at Parkhead, because I think the derby matches miss something massively when they've not got away supports there. I found that over the last few years. Yes, it's still loud. Yes, the atmosphere's good, but they're definitely missing something there.